Well, I'm Jake Epelle. I was born 56 years ago. I am the founder and the CEO of the Albino Foundation, which was founded in 2006. We're an NGO. We're based in Nigeria. We are nationwide. Our vision, I want to see a society of equal opportunity for all persons with albinism. That's what I live for.
What are some of the big main challenges that people living with albinism face?
Discrimination and stigmatization, health issues, skin cancer and visual impairment, lack of education, poverty, abuse of our rights and privileges, which is the discrimination, and of course the lack of government involvement in serving the underserved.
And the discrimination and the stigma, how does this play out in everyday life?
Well, we get discriminated in our homes, in the family. I remember growing up, my biological mother, I came from a family that is polygamous. My father, as an African, was married to 3 wives. And my stepmother, who was the first, didn't have a child. She's late now. And my mother, who had me, and 4 others, for some reason, due to societal pressure and everything, Mom was a little bit distant from me. I grew up in the same house, not knowing my biological mom for 3 years, until I was 3. So it was my stepmom who took me as a child, as a son, and looked after me. An interesting thing happened. One day, somebody was coming to look for my biological mom, and my stepmother had gone to the market. And the fellow met me and said, "Where's your mom?" And I said, "My mother had gone to the market." He said to me, "You're lying. Your mom just called me." And I said, "Well, that my mother had gone to the market." And I insisted. And then my biological mom overheard that and came out and said, "Oh, don't mind him. He calls my mate his mom, And the woman said, "This is serious. You mean your own child doesn't know you're his biological mother, And it really touched her that when my mother came back, when my stepmom came back, they picked up a quarrel. And then my father looked her in the eyes and said, "You have not been given this child the love that he deserves. If you've been given this child the love that he deserves, he will not know another woman as a mother and not know you as a real mother." So, and that discrimination cuts across my siblings, my friends, So there's discrimination in the family. There's discrimination in school. I remember my classmates, making fun of me and dragging me to the sun and pushing my face directly to the sun.
What did they say to you?
Well, it was fun for them. They wanted me to make fun of me that I don't see, and that the sun is my greatest enemy. So it was it was a joke, but it was a punishment. They made jest of it.
What does the sun do to your skin?
Of course, the sun is 99% responsible for skin cancer, for freckles, for sunburn. The sun is the greatest enemy of anybody with albinism, especially in Africa. There's discrimination in churches and in mosques, in worship places. I have experienced it, the situation where you walk into the church and you sit down and somebody sees where you're seated and said, "I'm not going to sit with an albino."
This is a Christian church in Nigeria?
Yes, and it's also there in the mosque. So there is discrimination in the social circle, among society. I was not allowed to come into a party as a young student because the giver of the party, the mother, said that she does not want a person with albinism in her home. So I was kicked out of a social gathering.
And did you go on to high school and university?
Well, this is another difficult part of my life for two reasons. I didn't get the education that I wanted. One was because of visual impairment. I didn't see the blackboard. It was a struggle for me. That's not the chief reason. The chief reason is because my parents were too poor to send me to school. So I didn't go to university. I managed to get a secondary education, but then it didn't stop me from becoming all that I want to become. I had to take on courses and did all that I can do, and to become a broadcaster, to become a journalist, to practice public relations and advertising, and of course the work that I do. I was a talk show host in Nigeria, and it ran on several television, and it did very well, for years. So there's a whole lot that I was able to do in spite of my poor education background. I've done policies. I've written policies for 4 policies right now for Nigeria, and so I know the importance of education. And my dream is to give to kids, to adults, the education that I never had.
When did you decide that you wanted to become an advocate for this cause?
In 2006, I was 45. I started too late, though. I was 45. I've done all kinds of legit business because I've always been very careful of what I do. I don't have any criminal record. I've never been arrested by anybody. So I keep to myself. I said to myself, my color sells me out, and therefore I must behave myself. A lot more things that young people do, smoking and running, I never did that. I knew for some reason that I would do what I'm doing today, so I wanted to preserve myself.
Is that because you thought that the penalties would be worse, or you'd be treated harshly?
Yes. I mean, if I'm thrown into the jail, I'll go through a lot more hardship than the normal person. So it guided me. But then, as an individual, I grew up not wanting to violate the law, not wanting to do anything, because of the strict discipline that my father brought me up. My father remains even though he's dead, is my hero, because he taught me integrity, transparency, hard work, and to believe in myself.
And can you explain the links between witchcraft, traditional healers, and their desire to get their hands on body parts of people with albinism?
Well, it's a myth that has become a norm, because those things are not true.
What is this myth?
Well, in Eastern Africa they call it witchcraft. In Western Africa we call it rituals. A situation where there's this belief that the body part of a person with albinism can fetch money. In some cases they believe it's a love potion. In some quarters it's for political power. It means a lot to many people, but those things are not true. I always say that if it is true that our body parts can make money, I would have been a rich man. I would have been a rich person, But it's a lie that the society have allowed to entrench into the fabric of the society. When you keep quiet over a myth, which is a lie, it becomes truth. But to fight the myth or lies, you need to tell the truth. And that's why I am an advocate for every person with albinism to get into the mainstream media, get into the social media, tell your story. Don't be ashamed. Tell people what you're going through. Don't hide it. Don't live in denial. Speak out. Until you speak, nobody will know what you're going through.